What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Bucky back here with you. We have got a fun show today. We're going to have a chance to visit with one of the top coaches in college football, and Kalani Sitake from BYU, who's got a tremendous football background, both as a player there at BYU, as a phenomenal coach and coordinator there at Utah, and has since taken over the BYU program and has them rolling. So we're going to get a chance to visit with him, which I'm very much looking forward to, and get a chance to talk with Bucky here about the top of the draft and what we could see happening there, because it could be a little movement there. Could be a lot of fun, a little shakeup there at the top of the draft as we look at it a few months out. So that's where we're headed today. It's going to be a fun show. Buck, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. I am good. Excited about the weekend. The championship games in college. DJ, in the past, like that would carry so much weight for me as an evaluator because I've always been taught, or I believe in looking for matchups. And so I want to see how the people play against the best. And I'm not going to lie, I would always give a little extra currency to playoff games, division championship games, rivalries, because the intensity of those games are as close as you can get to the NFL. And so as most people do, we work backwards. So we work from your most recent games all the way up. And I think these impressions that are made in these championship games will really matter when it comes to the final grades for some of these prospects.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to them as well. I've been really working through all these players, starting to really study on these guys, getting ready for the draft. And, man, I know Waddle got hurt, but dang, that dude's fast. I mean, just explosive from Alabama. And then Devontae Smith. It's been fun to kind of look at going through some of these wide receivers. But on the receiver front, Buck, man, I don't know if we're ever going to have a lull. You know, we talk about, drafts kind of go in kind of ebbs and flows at certain positions, but because teams are throwing it so much at the college level and because of the development process with 7-on-7 in high schools chucking it, it's another great year of receivers this year, man.
It is another great year of receivers. Like, there are always pass catchers out there that are available. And DJ, like, it's so funny. Part of it is supply and demand. Like from a philosophical standpoint, you can find these wide receivers, particularly in the second, third round, just because there's so many really good players. And I'm just fascinated to watch these guys develop, to watch them emerge, to watch these route runners, because for so long we heard guys saying, oh, the spread system, they don't teach these guys how to run routes. They're just kind of running the areas. They're not able to play. But the more that we look at these young players coming to the league and have immediate impacts on their teams, I think we have to give the young generation, the next generation, credit for working on their game on and off the field, like during the season and really in the off season when they do their things with their trainers or working out on their own.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question here. If we look at these teams that are picking right now, if the season ended, picking 3, 4, and 5. Okay, little draft primer here. Cincinnati 3, Chargers 4, Dallas 5. We assume, obviously, with Dallas that they'll figure things out with Dak. So all three of those teams have quarterbacks. So Cincinnati, if we go Jets, Jacksonville, we assume quarterback, which would mean Cincinnati would have the pick of whoever else in the field that they need. Now, Cincinnati needs offensive line help. The Chargers need offensive line help. Dallas needs offensive line help. So let's say Cincinnati takes the best guy, and most people believe that would be Penei Sewell, right? I really like Rashawn Slater as well. But then you get down to the next pick there with the Chargers. And let's say that they're maybe not quite as high on Rashawn Slater as I am. So let's just, to make it simple, let's say they feel like there's B-level offensive linemen there. But you've got A-level receiving talent that's there. So you've got, however you like them, with Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith and Waddle, however you order those three guys, right? So if you're the Chargers and the Cowboys, would you take a B-level offensive lineman to help major position of need? Or do you say we've got quarterbacks in the way the game is going, let's just get them premier weapon there with that pick? What would you do?
So
and I know we haven't done a deep dive. I'm not going to hold you to this. I'm just saying positions.
No. So I'm thinking about Dallas, because Dallas would be next up. So here's the thing about Dallas in premier position. You have Amari Cooper on the contract. You just took CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup will come up in a year or so. And then you have 2 tight ends in Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz. I think if you think about premier talent, playmaker, whatever, this would drive Dallas Cowboys fans crazy. But we're playing a video game. Like a playmaker like Kyle Pitts, and I'm not saying Kyle Pitts is a top 5 talent, but if you think
He's really good. Yeah.
If you think about lining up, like putting Kyle Pitts there, so now you're saying, and we've always said this, build up one side of your football team, and then you can work on the other side. Build it up. So I know that we can get to 8-8 because of the strength of our offense. And we saw what Dak looked like with this offense without the offensive line. They were 2-3 or whatever they were when he went out. So you build that up. So I would consider that. The thing about like the B-level linemen, I like Rashawn Slater. I don't know if he's kind of like that AB because he's close. Penei Sewell to me is clear, but then you have other guys like I look at Christian Darrisaw.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He's a good player, but he falls into that B category. So how far back are we going? Are we going to the teens where we still feel like we can get him? Because looking at last year, you saw Mekhi Becton, Tristan Wirfs was 13, Becton was 11. I mean, you get too far, Jedrick Wills, you get too far out the mix, you may not be able to get one of those offensive tackles that you like.
So here's like the perfect scenario to me. So we've got, if we say Jets, Jags 1-2, right? If you are in Cincinnati, probably has to go premier offensive lineman. So I think those first 3 picks, you wouldn't see trades because I think Cincinnati has to stick and pick.
They have to take.
The quarterback got killed last year. So to me, the draft would then start at 4-5. So Chargers, Cowboys, and I believe they're going to have to flip a coin, but because their strength of schedule is identical as well as their record, so they'll flip a coin to see who goes first there. So Chargers, Cowboys there at 4-5. To me, if you look at it, the first 2 quarterbacks are gone, but we think there's 3-4 potential quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. You have Carolina, potential quarterback team at 6, and you have Atlanta, potential quarterback team at 7. So that's like a perfect dream world if you're the Chargers or the Cowboys, because if we're saying I can get Slater, I can still take the offense line, but maybe I get a little extra just to slide back a few spots, then you can do that. So to me, then it becomes, all right, Carolina, Atlanta, you guys are in the same division. You guys both need quarterbacks. And if you're the Chargers or the Cowboys, you're trying to pit them against each other. Say, hey, come on up. It's a few spots. Come up and get the guy you want.
Well, out of that scenario, one thing that stands out to me, we can pretty much guarantee that 4 quarterbacks will go in the top 10.
Yes.
I think it's pretty much a guarantee that 4 quarterbacks will go in the top 10 in whatever order that is. But the 4 guys that we will hear their name call by the time we get to the 10th pick will be Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, in whatever order. Yep. And so, if you're Atlanta and Carolina, and I think both teams probably need to pull the trigger on the quarterback this year before it gets too late, because Teddy Bridgewater still has 2 years left on his deal. Matt Ryan has time on his deal. You have to keep him at least another year just based on the number. Get the quarterback now so you're not under pressure to have to go next year when you're hungry. Hey, go to the grocery store when you've eaten so you can make good decisions.
I love that.
Don't go hungry, because then you fill up your card and you spend $250 and you don't have anything that's of substance. So I think it's really important. And because that is the mindset, I think if you are the Chargers and the Cowboys, what you have to do is you really have to take inventory of what's going on in the room, meaning what is going on around us, what's the conversations that we're hearing coming out of Carolina and Atlanta, how far back can we go, and how desperate are those teams to get a quarterback.
So, and we're going to have, this is just like the kickoff of when we like to scrimmage these things back and forth. I love these conversations. Well, you talked about Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. I also like Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. I think there's some good, like middle first round type value offensive linemen. So another scenario that you could be facing, which would be, I think, good options. So if you're the Chargers and the Cowboys, we're saying, okay, maybe Carolina, Atlanta, you get them to move up. I don't know, you'll get a ton for that, but you're going to get something to slide back from 4 or 5 down to 6 or 7. Or you could get on the horn with Detroit at 11, or maybe even Chicago at 15, and say, you guys got to pay a premium to come all the way up here from that. And I think because the depth of this offensive line class, you're going to get an upgrade there at 11 or 15 with what you're playing with if you're the Cowboys or the Chargers. And then you might get a haul of picks.
Okay, so now here's the team that I believe of the 2 teams has the most leverage, the Chargers and the Cowboys. I would say the Cowboys, because here's what the Cowboys can do, and here's what they should start doing from now. They should start hemming and hawing on the Dak Prescott conversation to create the illusion that they would entertain taking a quarterback at 4 or 5. So that means Stephen Jones can't get on air and talk about, hey, we love our guy, we want to bring him back. It's a negotiation. I don't know. this and that, because you want to create a legitimate feel that, you know what, man, the Cowboys, they may legitimately take a quarterback. So we need to offer them something that knocks their socks off. And everything has to be about creating that. And the Chargers can't do that because everyone is like, yeah, you just took Justin Herbert.
Yeah, but it depends. It depends who wins the coin toss, right? So if the Chargers end up picking ahead of the Cowboys, the Chargers would be sitting there like, hey, yeah, Dallas, go ahead and pretend like Dak's not your guy, because now my pick, the price of my pick just went way up, because you've got to get in front of Dallas or you're going to miss out on the third quarterback.
Man,
it's going to be fun. Anytime you have this many quarterbacks, it makes the draft fun, because that's what moves the needle, is because that's what trades happen. Teams go up for quarterbacks.
Yeah, and you have so many teams that need to address the quarterback situation. If we just look at it just off the top of the head, think about the teams that we've said for the last 2 or 3 years that need to do something at quarterback. It's always the guys with the older quarterbacks. So looking right now, Indianapolis needs to figure out what they're going to do going forward, because Jacoby Brissett and Phillip Rivers are both free agents. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, is 38 years old. And he's fading fast. He's fading fast down the stretch. And the New England Patriots, regardless of whatever, like Cam Newton, they have to do something at quarterback. Cam Newton, Jarrett Stidham, or whatever, like they have to eventually take a swing.
They're in no man's land, by the way. New England right now is picking 16. So Chicago and New England are 15, 16. You could make a case that, like, man, it's probably time for it could be time for a bold move for both those teams.
Yeah, Chicago. So DJ, we're talking 4 other teams that aren't even in that conversation immediately that you talked about with Carolina and Atlanta. So what is 6 to get 2? And let's just say those 2 quarterbacks are the 2 remaining outside of the top 2, Trevor Lawrence and whoever.
Yeah.
I mean, now you have what you want. Leverage. You have the opportunity to say, okay, let's see what you got. We got 6 teams that I know need quarterbacks.
Dang, man, the more I'm looking at this, I'm telling you, Buck, like the 2 teams, and we work with them, but the Chargers and the Cowboys, it could end up pretty nice for them, because if you assume that Dak's going to be their guy, you've got a good chip.
If they play it right, it absolutely can work out in their favor. Now, the thing is, in these scenarios, when it comes to trading, you have to be able to assess how far back am I willing to drop in the first round, and still get a blue chip player, still get a player that's going to come in and do it. And we won't fully know that until we assess the full landscape, because I do think this draft, unlike some draft, I think it's kind of more offensive heavy. I think I probably feel better right now, just loosely observing, that I feel better about the offensive linemen in this draft, the wide receivers in the drafts, and the quarterback. Cornerbacks are pretty good. But I don't feel I don't feel
not. I mean,
I don't feel.
I really like Caleb Farley. I should say that, but I don't think after him, I don't think there's like big time dudes. And edge rusher wise, it's. I mean, I've got a lot more guys to watch, but I've not been blown away by what I've seen.
So because of that, you're Dallas. You're thinking, it's going to test their willingness to say, okay, the better player is at offensive line. Everyone is going to scream at us that we need to upgrade our defense, but the offensive line, the need matches the talent that could be available if we move back into the middle of the first round.
But we always say too, remember that free agency and the draft are married. So if we're saying the draft skews more offense, man, good year to be a defensive free agent.
It is a good year to be a defensive free agent. I don't know who those marquee defensive free agents are.
Bud Dupree was one of them until he got hurt. That was a big one.
Yeah. So looking at those guys, the corners always tend to get overpaid in free agency. So it's interesting, because we're gonna see the money fly off the board in free agency. We're like, what the?
Yeah.
But part of it is you got to secure the need.
I think Matt Judon's up too, right?
Franchise him. He was franchise. And it made me, when the Ravens made the move for Yannick Ngakoue, it made me believe that they may be okay with Matt Judon walking out the door.
Yeah.
Because
Yannick's up too, right?
Yeah, he is up. But, I mean, you gave up a pick to bring him in. I think when you do that, you kind of have a little motivation. I mean, maybe it was just a 1-year run to try and make it. But it seems like they had him targeted and he was in their plan. And I know they also tried to make that move early in the offseason to get him directly from Jacksonville. So they got him from Jacksonville by way of the Minnesota Vikings. So I wonder.
All right, yeah, it's fascinating to see what could happen there at the top of the draft. And look, we'll put a pin in this one. We'll revisit this one down the road, but something to keep an eye on as we kind of just scrimmage that one out. But right now, let's bring in our special guest. Excited to have BYU head coach Kalani Sitake join the show. All right, Buck, let's bring him in here. Coach Sitake joining us. And Coach, first thing, I want to congratulate you on a wonderful season that you guys have had. But I also want to congratulate you as two former scouts that have been in just about every facility in the country. The BYU sandwich while you finish tape and you're getting ready from practice in that little sandwich shop downstairs is the best in the country.
Listen, one thing I do know is that whenever my wife and my family want to go on vacation, the first thing I do is look at the eating spots. The vacation, when we talk about going to different places on vacation, and people ask me, hey, how was it? I'm like, it was all right. The food was awesome, though. So you're always going to get that type of reaction from me. And I feel like, the scouts are always traveling, and anything we can do to help accommodate them. And I know that other schools do it too, but I think they have one of the toughest jobs out there, and whatever we can do to help them make their life a little bit more at ease when they're doing their job. So looking forward to having more scouts when things get back to normal.
Hey, Coach, as DJ and I talked about, we've always come through BYU is always a must-see, must-stop destination. And the thing that I'm most impressed with when I look at your team, you guys are so physical and fundamentally sound. Where does that come from? Because it seems like there's been an uptick in physicality and toughness since you've taken over the program.
Well, I believe that you have to recruit big, strong guys first, and when we look at recruiting, I mean, for me, it's recruiting. When I played here, we always had monsters up front, and we had length and size. So I feel like if you recruit frame and you recruit some toughness and some strength, it's hard to take a guy that you think is a great athlete but has no strength. And to me, that's work ethic. And so we're going to live in the weight room. We're going to get these guys stronger, and then we're going to try to have that show and make sure that it is a reflection on the field. And so but I honestly think that things here, we kind of relish in the idea that things are tough here at BYU. It's hard to live the lifestyle here, the honor code. That's difficult. That's a sacrifice that a lot of college kids aren't wanting to do during their college years. And academics is really tough. And so football is going to be tough as well. And I think that carries over into their approach to the game. And, whenever we play the game, I don't know if we're going to win or lose, but I don't know what the result will be, but I hope that people can feel us by the end of the game and that we make an impact on them when they say, man, those guys were some tough guys to play against. And we were still working on all of it. So there's a lot of room to grow. But I think you have to develop them that way and you have to recruit them that way.
Coach, I had so many other things I wanted to ask you about, but I'm putting the timeline together in my head. And I grew up in San Diego. I used to throw with some receivers down there and going off as they were going off to school. And one of them was KO. Were you there? Were you there with KO at BYU?
So I wasn't here. So here's how it worked. I played in 94, and then I think I take the credit for recruiting a lot of the guys like Steve Sarkisian. So I was here to help host those guys. When I played as a true freshman, and then I went on my mission after that, and those guys played, and I came home and was able to see them in the bowl game. But I know Kealalui really well, and I know Steve Sarkisian really well. I mean, Sark and I are really close friends, even to this day. So those guys, when you're in the BYU alum, if you're a BYU alum, you got this brotherhood, this connection. It doesn't matter when you played. When you played under Lavelle. And you played under all the other coaches, you kind of have this understanding of each other and the brotherhood that happens here and the long tradition. So we really take care of each other, and we know what it takes to be a football player here. So that automatically is connection. But those guys individually, I do know them. He's a tough kid too.
He's good on the ukulele, Coach. He can play the ukulele now.
Yeah, we all got our soft side too,
Hey, Coach, the pandemic presented football programs with unique challenges in terms of preparing and getting ready for the season. I thought it was interesting, your first game against Navy. There's a stark contrast in the way that you guys approached it and the way that Navy approached it. You guys on the field were very physical and very ready to play. How did you approach the changing circumstances and getting your team ready to play?
Well, I think we were kind of figuring things out too, during that whole transition and when things were changing and we didn't know if we had a schedule. But once we knew we had Navy on there, we had to kind of hone in on prepping for that type of offense. And I got to be honest with you, we got the players back in June. I think June 1st we were allowed to have them back here, and we started our testing and did our off-season conditioning. But before that time, from the pandemic in March, the quarantine in March, all the way until June, we relied heavily on our players to do their jobs. We met on Zoom and everything, but that was a moment for our guys to actually focus on doing it themselves and being intrinsically motivated. And what we saw is that we have guys that can be trusted. And when they went out there and they came back from March to June and we saw body changes, that was awesome. And then we were able to kind of roll with that in June. It just made me a lot more confident that these guys love football and they want to be at their best. And so that's a great foundation to have. When it's different when you're forced to do it compared to when you do it on your own. And then I think that takes over your mindset a little bit and helps your psyche become a little bit more confident when you enter the field.
Talk about making improvements, Coach. Your quarterback's been off the charts this year. Somebody that's definitely got the attention of the National Football League. Can we go back to high school maybe with him? What was it about him that got you excited about him to bring him into the program?
Well, what got me excited is that he's a multi-sport athlete. He plays a lot of different sports, starting point guard on his basketball team, loves competing. So to me, it's like he wasn't just a specialized guy that just threw the ball and that's all he did. He could do a lot of different things. And he had the toughness so he could play safety. He could do whatever he wanted, And for me, it was like, okay, this guy's got it. He's got a high level of competition. And I liked his leadership. And so I think I feel like the personality that he had kind of made sense. And he wasn't this guy to go out and get recruited or try to gain attention through all the different nothing against that. I know people do that, but while people were doing that, he was playing basketball, he was doing other things, and I like multi-sport athletes, and I feel like that kind of, we're kind of losing that a little bit, and people are becoming so specialized, and I think that's why I think it's important for young people to, when they're playing football, to play all different positions, and I think you get labeled. In Little League, sometimes you get labeled an X-Man, you're the guy that never gets to carry the ball. I think that sucks, man, so they should play flag football and learn how to throw. And then, I think it's important for guys to learn how to play football, but also learn how to play basketball. I think basketball is a great sport for football players, great agility. I mean, LeBron James could play football. Allen Iverson is a great football player. And so I think it correlates to being a great athlete on the field. And I think even in basketball, you get labeled. I mean, if you're 6'4", you're going to be a post player early. Mm-hmm. That's not even fair. That those guys should be a point guard or working in a 2-guard spot. And so to me, it's like keeping our guys' ability to play a lot of different positions. And when we get little kids here that come to our camps, we allow them to play every position possible. And that's like a huge relief to them. And you actually get to see these big guys run. And you never know how someone grows from 12 to 18. And so you look at some of these basketball players that all of a sudden grew 6 inches and they're used to being a point guard. And now they're, 6'8" point guard. That's how it works. And so football is the same way. You want guys to be able to run the ball, throw the ball, catch and all those things, not just be labeled to linemen. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but athletic lineman is what the NFL looks for.
And thinking about Wilson, he has grown so much over 3 years as a starter. You always talk about toughness when it comes to your program. What kind of toughness does he exhibit? When were you able to identify the toughness that you feel like is necessary to be the starting quarterback for your program?
Well, I think toughness is a relative term, so it's used in so many different ways. And I think sometimes the people think tough is beating your chest and trying to fight, And I think the toughest man in the fight is the one willing to walk away. And so I'm trying to talk about mental toughness and things like that I think really matter the most for these young men in this time and in their life. And for me, it's toughness is showing up on time, being responsible and accountable for what you say, holding on to your word when you tell someone you're going to be there, letting know people that they can count on you when times are rough for them, being a good friend. That's what toughness is to me. And I've seen him do all those things. I've seen him, when he's struggling with his own injuries, look out to serve others. And so, we do a lot of service here as a team, but it's awesome when you see guys that are reaching out to other people, even when they're hurting. And so to me, I think it's important that we define toughness for these young men in the way that I see it, and the way that I think could be the most beneficial, and the way they can grow. He is a tough man because he does all the things that you ask of him, and then more. And sometimes you don't even have to remind guys. When you're thinking something as a coach and you're about to say it, and then you hear your leader say it, like your quarterback, and you're like, all right, well, I don't have to say it anymore. And to me, that's toughness, because you're being aware of what's going on, and it's not just all about you. It's about everyone else that's included. And I've been really impressed with that from him.
Coach, last question from me. You've been very, very generous with your time today, but I feel like nationally, maybe on a broader scale, I don't know that Lavelle Edwards gets the credit that's due him for how great of a coach he was for the length of time he was. Having played from him and having a successful coaching career yourself now, is there one or two things that you really pull from him, that you draw on from what you learned during that time?
Oh yeah, I mean, I miss him. I miss him so much, and I enjoy staying in contact with his wife Patty and his grandchildren and children. But it was an honor for me to coach to be a head coach when he was here for my first year, and then to play under him. But I think the lessons that he taught me weren't just football. I think he's probably spent more time as a head coach talking to me about life, and really, really concerned about me as a person, and what's going on in my college life, more than what I'm doing on the field. He let Norm Chow and the other coach, Lance Reynolds, and the other coaches handle that. But for the most part, he was interested in me, how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, and he did that. And I thought I was special, because when in his funeral services, I thought I was his favorite. I thought that's what he did for me. And then you get around all the other coaches that played for him, like Andy Reid and all these, Brian Billick and Steve Young, and I mean, I'm gonna forget about all these great people. And you start talking to them, they're like, man, they felt the same way, And so you had these thousands of men that felt like we were his favorite, and how awesome that was that we all felt the same way. And I think that's a huge indicator of how much that man loved us.
That is awesome, Coach. Hey, we appreciate your time, man. This has been a treat for us. Like I said, we've followed you for a long time, and it's been fun to watch the success that you've had, your program's had, because you do it the right way. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And hey, we're going to try to get more NFL guys here, man. I think the NFL needs more BYU players. So keep us on the map, man. We got a lot of great young players that are up and coming too. So keep it rolling. We'll keep feeding you guys when you come over.
Well, I want to know how many more family members Fred Warner's got there. I feel like I've been watching the Warner at BYU for the last 10 years.
I don't know, but they should have had 20 more. That's all I need.
Hey, great job, Coach. I appreciate you, man. Best of luck.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, but Coach Sitake was awesome, man. That was fantastic. And I think we were just touching on it, how he's been able to take a traditional passing program, add the physicality, and it works. You look at Alabama, traditional physical program, add the passing game, and it works. It's kind of, there's a similarity there between Alabama and BYU.
Yeah, look, I don't think BYU gets enough credit. And I know their schedule was topsy-turvy in terms of like the cancellations, them having to resupply. So we didn't fully give them the respect that they deserved in terms of how well they were playing. But this is a physical football team. It's not the old school BYU that you're used to seeing throw the ball all over the yard. They get after it, they run it, but they have a mix of pass that makes them fun. I think this is a very fun team to watch, but I think old school traditionalists, they will love to see them because of how physical they are.
No doubt. Well, it's been a fun episode today, man. It's always a treat to get to talk to guys like Coach Sitake. We appreciate his time. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. That's going to do it for us today, though, and hopefully you guys will keep joining us here. We'll have a lot to talk about as we march towards the end of the season, as well as the 2021 NFL Draft right on the horizon. He's Bucky Brooks. I'm Daniel Jeremiah. We'll catch you next time right here on Move the Sticks.